At my own birthday dinner, my mother leaned across the table, smiling like a queen giving orders. While everyone's here, she whispered to my dad, "Tell your son to go change the locks at her apartment." The clinking fork stopped. My brother didn't question, just stood up and left like it was normal to break into your sister's life on her birthday. What if your family planned your betrayal right in front of you? For an hour, laughter turned into whispers. Then he came back pale as the tablecloth shaking. "Mom, there's something," he said. Her smile vanished. My stomach dropped. Whatever he saw at my apartment wasn't supposed to be found. But what if the real shock was waiting for them? When people talk about family, they picture warmth. Birthday candles, laughter, hugs that mean something. Mine always looked the part. Perfect smiles and Christmas photos, matching sweaters, polite small talk about vacations and promotions. But behind that, everything was a performance. My mother, Mrs. Reeves, was the director. My father, her silent investor, and my brother Nathan, the star of every act. Since I was little, I knew my role. Stay quiet. Don't ruin the image. If Nathan forgot to call, Mom said he's busy. If I missed one dinner, she said, "You're selfish." Somehow, every flaw became mine. I used to think if I worked harder, achieved more, maybe she'd finally look at me the way she looked at him. But control doesn't stop when you start succeeding. It just changes form. That night at the restaurant, her whisper wasn't random. She had planned it. I could see it in the way she arranged the seating Nathan next to Dad, me opposite like an audience member. Even the cake had his favorite flavor, not mine. And when she said, "While everyone's here," she wasn't just talking about convenience. She wanted witnesses. She wanted power. Dad didn't question her either. He never did. Decades of keeping peace had turned him into an echo. He muttered, "Do it after dessert." Like it was a grocery list. My brother nodded, eager to please, eager to obey. I remember tracing my finger along the rim of my glass, pretending not to hear, pretending not to care. But inside, my chest burned. Change the locks at my apartment. Why? What had I done this time? I had my own place for 3 years, a small apartment in Portland where I lived with my son Liam. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, my safe place. No one had a key except me. Or so I thought. When Nathan left the table, I stayed still. Mom chatted with relatives, her voice sweet again, as if she hadn't just ordered a break-in. My father smiled weakly, swirling his wine, pretending not to notice my silence. I excused myself to the restroom just to breathe. The mirror reflected a calm woman, neat hair, lipstick intact. No one could see the storm behind her eyes. By the time I returned, an hour had passed. Nathan was back pale and shaking. He leaned toward Mom, his voice cracking. "There's something you need to see." Her expression stiffened. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, eyes darting to me. "There's police tape around her door." The table fell silent. My mother's fork slipped from her hand. I didn't move, didn't blink, because in that moment, I realized the real dinner hadn't even started yet. The drive home felt endless. Streetlights flashed over the windshield like heartbeat monitors, steady but cold. My phone buzzed nonstop. Mom, Dad, even Nathan, but I didn't answer. The city outside looked normal, but I could feel something shifting, something that wouldn't go back to the way it was. When I pulled into my apartment complex, 2 police cruisers were parked near the entrance. Blue and red lights pulsed against the brick walls. My stomach twisted. I barely remember getting out of the car, just the sound of gravel under my heels, and a uniformed officer stepping toward me. "Ms. Reeves," he asked. "I'm Officer Grant. Are you the tenant of Unit 214? "Yes." "What's going on?" He checked his notes. "We received a report of a break-in. Your door was forced open, but nothing appears to be stolen. We've sealed it for investigation." I blinked, trying to process. "A break-in? Who would?" He paused. "Do you know anyone who might have a copy of your keys?" My throat tightened. "My brother Nathan Reeves." The officer glanced up sharply. "And why would your brother have your keys?" I hesitated. "Because my mother told him to." He stared at me for a moment, pen hovering. "Told him to do what?" "Change my locks." He exhaled through his nose, writing something down. "That's quite an instruction." I didn't give permission. By the time I left the precinct, the clouds had started to break apart. Sunlight spilled through in thin, uneven rays, the kind that look hesitant, like they're not sure they belong yet. When I got to the hospital to pick up Liam, he was waiting with a sticker on his shirt, a gold star. He ran straight into my arms. "Mom, look. I got a star for being brave." I smiled. "So did I, sweetheart. You just can't see mine yet." He giggled, not understanding. And for once, I didn't need him to. We drove home in silence, his little hand resting on my arm. The world outside smelled clean, washed new. When we got back, I made pancakes, the kind he liked with too much syrup and not enough patience. He talked about school, his friends, how he wanted to build a rocket in the backyard. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like something was chasing me. There were still calls I hadn't returned, messages from reporters I didn't plan to answer. Let them talk. The truth didn't need my permission anymore. That night, after Liam went to bed, I stood by the window again. The city lights blinked in the distance, reflected in the rain, still clinging to the glass. I thought about my parents, not with anger this time, but clarity. They taught me the difference between love and control, between loyalty and silence. And somewhere between their lies and my truth, I'd finally found myself. The next morning, I walked into the post office with one final envelope in my hand. Inside were the remaining documents linking my parents' offshore accounts. No note, no message, just the truth. When I sealed it, I whispered, "This ends here." Outside, the air was bright, cool, honest. I turned toward the street where my car waited, and for the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt since childhood. Peace. News travels fast when scandal smells like money. Within a week, every local outlet had picked up the story. Prominent couple under federal review for identity fraud. My phone lit up nonstop. Journalists, lawyers, relatives pretending to check in. I didn't answer a single one. The world could speculate all it wanted. I was done explaining myself. The apartment was quiet now. The flipped photos had been rehung, every frame straightened. Liam's laughter filled the space where fear used to echo. Sometimes late at night, I still caught myself expecting the phone to ring with her name on it. But it never did. Not out of guilt, out of shame. Dad resigned from his company the same day the investigation became public. The firm released a one-line statement about health reasons. Mom vanished from her social circles, her charity events, her book club. For a woman who lived off appearances, silence was the only punishment that fit. Officer Grant called a few days later. "You've been fully cleared, Ms. Reeves. The case is moving forward." "Thank you," I said, "for believing me." He paused. "You didn't need me to believe you. You just needed to believe yourself." After we hung up, I looked around my living room, the same one that had been invaded, violated, reclaimed. The air felt lighter, like the space itself was breathing again. I poured a cup of coffee and opened the window. Outside, the city sounded alive. Horns, footsteps, the soft hum of a place that didn't care who you used to be. That weekend, I invited a few friends over for dinner. People who had stayed when everything fell apart. We didn't talk about my parents. We didn't have to. Nana raised her glass and said, "To freedom and to never apologizing for protecting yourself." I smiled. "I'll drink to that." Later, after everyone left, I tucked Liam into bed. He mumbled half asleep. "Are we safe now, Mom?" I brushed his hair back. "Yes, baby, we are." He sighed and drifted off. And for the first time in years, I didn't doubt the words that came out of my mouth. The next morning, sunlight poured through the kitchen window, soft and gold. Liam sat at the table, kicking his legs syrup on his cheek. I flipped pancakes, watching the light move across the floor like it was tracing new boundaries, ones that finally belonged to me. I'd spent years trying to keep the peace. Turns out peace isn't something you keep. It's something you claim. As I poured coffee, I looked at my son and smiled. This time, I said softly, "The locks stay mine." If you've ever had to rebuild yourself after family betrayal, share your story below and hit subscribe. You're not alone.